A new study suggests that a series of mini earthquakes in Surrey last year could have been caused by exploratory drilling for oil at the Horse Hill site near to Gatwick. A team of academics at the University of Edinburgh say their work supports the concern that Horse Hill oil exploration triggered the quakes. Well, that claim has been dismissed by the company UK Oil and Gas, or UKOG, who are behind the site. Well, I'm joined now by Professor Stuart Haszeldine from the University of Edinburgh team. Stuart, thanks for taking the time. First of all, why are you so sure that the exploratory works are behind this series of quakes?
Really, it's the coincidences of timing and then the exact location of the quakes. So since earthquake records began in any detail in the UK since 1969, there's never been any series of earthquakes like this in the central part of the Weald area. But that we observed these series of earthquakes starting in April last year through till September, which very closely correlate with what we've reconstructed as the oil-related activity at the surface of the site. And some of these earthquakes are within hours of shooting bullets into the side of the borehole, for example, or mobilizing a crane to open up the borehole. And so we think there is a very definite cause and effect here.
Well, UKOG strongly refute the allegations, the findings of your study. In fact, they say, and I quote here, there's no reasonable scientific basis for the claims. How do you respond to that?
Again, you've got to ask yourself if there's no record of this happening since records began, why should this suddenly be happening now when there are all these interventions going on with the borehole? Because our reconstruction of the borehole record shows that the borehole goes very directly through a geological fault. And so there's a very direct connection from the activity in the borehole to the places that the earthquakes are located at abnormally shallow depth, in exactly the same rock formations that are being produced for the oil and the gas.
And, I mean, as you might expect, I mean, it's two very separate sides, poles apart here. I mean, let's be clear here. UKOG have said in the past that the quakes are not connected to anything they've done on the site, and yet you're saying there's evidence that's not the case.
So we have very good evidence. We've got four sets of earthquakes last year, which we can tie down very good linkages for three, and we've got a very strong suspicion for the fourth. And we're, of course, hampered by the fact that the borehole activity and the site activity is kept secret by UKOG. Ourselves and many people have asked them to display what they do, and we're also hampered because the detailed earthquake records are kept secret by UKOG, and only the very general records are released by the Geologic Survey.
Okay, well,
none of
Stuart,
these things help to build confidence in what's going on.
Okay, well, Stuart, just on that very point, I have no evidence to back up the claims they've been deliberately kept quiet. And let's just come on to one of the conclusions of your report, which says we could experience further quakes if this work continues. What do you base that on?
We wrote those words a couple of weeks ago, and so it's very interesting to see that today we've had a significant tremor again, 2.4. Of course, in the whole scheme of the world, that's only a minor earthquake, but it's still a continuing set of activity around the site. And we're basing that prediction on the fact that we have a borehole which goes through the geological fault. We think the oil is being produced from the fault because it's an oil with very little water in it, and it's got a very, very good flow with a high gas content which is coming from deeper down. All of these things conspire together to say that as we continue to modify the pressures underground, that will continue to trigger earthquakes along this fault, and if more boreholes are drilled, we can expect the same sort of activity across other faults in the same region.
Well, Stuart, thank you for your time this evening. Fascinating to hear. That's Professor Stuart Haszeldine from the University of Edinburgh, who've published this report about the mini earthquakes we saw in Surrey last year. UKOG have issued a statement in which they say there was no scientific basis for the claim and that it was factually inaccurate. The company, as we've reported, said repeatedly that there's no connection between the drilling and the tremors.